today's world.
So something I've been considering doing lately has been a post-mortem. An idea of taking a few days to relax after reviewing something and sort of soak it in. Discuss exactly what it is that makes said film bad or good, and what makes it tick, and where it could have been improved if it's not good, and where it should have gone, why it went there if it is good. And we're going to do that with Captain Marvel. Now, Captain Marvel had a big opening weekend, which is good. I mean, for the Marvel brand, at the end of the day, because these films are good more often than not, if they succeed, I consider it a net good, even if I don't like that individual film, because I enjoy the franchise so far. Because largely speaking, the Marvel films have been able to be what the comic books don't want to be. And that is successful, that is creative, that is able to convey interesting stories told well. So, with Captain Marvel, we didn't get that. Let's talk artistically first. The film was a letdown in a lot of ways. And the general idea that we're seeing is that people were coming out of the theater and a little bit underwhelmed. When I went to my own theater personally, and this is just, personal experience, so take it for what you will. What I experienced was there were some people who legitimately liked it. They thought it was funny. They got some kicks out of it. Then there were those who you could kind of tell just weren't, super enthused. About half the people in the theater started leaving after the first post-credit sequence, knowing there was another one coming up. And ultimately, the big problems with it are, of course, Brie Larson feels miscast. A lot of critics, not named Micah Curtis, said the same thing. In my opinion, there were moves in the film that were made that were political. One thing that has been a seemingly universal criticism is that the girl power narrative in the film is really, really poorly done. And it really is. It is just in your face. It doesn't do anything to add to the character. It's just there to make a really bad attempt at making women feel better about being women, as opposed to telling an interesting story that successfully makes you feel better about being a woman. So, but those are generally the criticisms. Artistically speaking, it is just not where it could have been. Would I call it a terrible movie, like a, like a Manos, the Hand of Fate or something like that? No, I would never say that. What I would say is it's the same kind of disappointing that Batman v Superman was, in the sense that it could have been an interesting story, it could have been a story well told, but there were some artistic missteps that were taken within the film that really drag it down. Batman v Superman, the issue, of course, Batman killing people, and then him, and basically Ben Affleck being a very bad Batman. And in the same sense, it's the same thing with this film, and it's almost a perfect parallel, because Ben Affleck is a very bad casting for Batman. Brie Larson is not a good casting for Carol Danvers, and they actually share similar weaknesses in the sense that Affleck could not bring out Bruce Wayne in any way, sense, or form. People try to tell me it's the Dark Knight Batman. No, it is not Dark Knight Rises or Dark Knight Returns Batman. No, I'm sorry, not even close. You need to read that graphic novel again. It's not even close. And they actually, from what I could tell, tried to bring out the sarcastic, playful Carol Danvers, like she is in the Claremont run and in the I forgot his name, the writer during the Quesada era, that Carol, the Miss Marvel Carol. It kind of felt like that's what they were going for, more so than the bitchy, no humor, hair shorter than mine, Carol Danvers from the most recent books. That was just kind of this joyless fuck. So The issue that I had is just similar between that and Batman v Superman, which had a big domestic weekend, and then, people hated it. So the parallel is rather obvious. It is just lost potential. Could have been great, wasn't. And the question here is, why wasn't it as good as it could have been? Well, let's keep with the Batman v Superman comparisons. I think the Batman v Superman, the reason that it was the way it was is that it was Batman v Superman was trying way too hard to be modern, and it was trying way too hard to appeal to millennials, and that's actually a weakness that Suicide Squad had too, and really misinterpreted the character of Batman, and tried to modernize him by making him a killer, basically, trying to make him the Punisher with a bat costume, and it just falls flat. So, because people don't like Batman for that. People like the idea that Batman does not kill. Batman fans like the idea he does not kill, that he does not want to become an executioner, that he doesn't hold himself above the law. It is a respect for the right of the individual that I personally like about the character quite a bit. But I also like the struggle to not kill and so on and so forth. But anyway, with Captain Marvel, the problem, of course, was that there was the political motivation here. They wanted to have the feminist movie that all the feminists would get behind. You could really tell that's what they wanted. And they got it. Yeah, I mean, they got the Mary Sue to lie for them, basically, the directors did. I mean, not directly, but indirectly got them to lie for him, saying that all the reviews that were negative were men. Obviously that was not true. There were several reviews that were very, very critical of the film that were done by women. In my opinion, the best review that I had read about it was in Time magazine. I cannot remember the name of the woman who reviewed it, though. But anyway, the first issue is that, the fact that Carol's not allowed to have a positive male role model, that all the men around her are either assholes or punchlines. It reeks of this idea that I keep wanting to say developers like it's a video game, but that the directors wanted or didn't like the idea of Carol looking up to a man like she might play second fiddle to him. It's very, very insecure in a sense, and I think that that's emblematic in the fact that Sam Jackson, Nick Fury, is not portrayed like a badass like he was in the Avengers films, where you've got the lead Skrull, who's played by Ben Mendelsohn, who is kind of a joke for a good chunk of the film, like his lisp and everything like that. And then you have, the villain, of course, is a guy. And then, there's a cat-calling scene and stuff like that, and it's just comes across very forced. It's you could tell that they were going out of their way to make men look like assholes. So that was the first problem. Of course, second problem is, of course, Brie Larson herself. There were moments in this film where there were lines that were delivered were very, very wooden. The last line that she gives to the villain of the film, saying, "I have nothing to prove to you," just what kind of came across very flat. There were moments where it felt like there should have been a line, and Larson just stares at the camera. And I almost just imagine somebody in the background going, "Line! Line!" But anyway, that's generally the artistic failing. Now, on the flip side, the film has become a success fiscally. And ultimately, that is what matters. I mean, the film made back its budget, which was $152 million, in one weekend alone. It opened close to $160 million, which is just below Iron Man 3. So it's top 10 comic book film openings. I think top 5, top 6 for Marvel. And it is continuing to do well fiscally. So the question is that we're left with is girl power enough to sell a film? And there is part of me that is thinking that yes, it is. But we will have to see how it plays out in the long run. The question is whether or not are we going to get a film that is like The Last Jedi in sort of a long stand, where a lot of people sour on the character, aren't fans of Brie Larson as the character, so on and so forth? Or would there be enough of a fan base who gets behind this film that's going to keep it stable in regards to as a franchise? I have a feeling it will be the latter of the two. I think that ultimately on this one, the criticisms of the film aren't going to be ignored. I have a feeling that the next film will probably be a lot better. I have a feeling that Anna Boden and Ryan Fleck probably will not return to direct the sequel, because there will be a sequel at this point. Because, like Kevin Feige has said, he wants Captain Marvel, the character of Captain Marvel, to be the face of the franchise going forward. Much as I don't like that. But it just seems to me that girl power is enough to sell a film in this day and age. And it is what it is. So we will get sequels. Again, I have a feeling that the next one will probably be better than this one. Because, and I'll close on this, I think the reason that the next one will be better is because ever since Thor: The Dark World fell flat, they have aimed to improve in one way or another upon the formulas of previous films, or they're willing to switch it up. I would actually think that if you went the way that Thor Ragnarok did from Thor: The Dark World with this franchise and with this character, and you really worked hard with Brie Larson to emphasize the part of her that can be very charming, I think you could have a big blockbuster, and you could finally take the character of Carol Danvers and bring out that Carol that a lot of people fell in love with the old runs of Miss Marvel, with the Claremont run and the way he portrayed her during her time as Binary. And then, of course, her time in the Avengers as Warbird, where she was just this, tough as nails girl, but really likable, had a great sense of humor, complete smartass, which is part of the reason as to why I've always found the character so appealing, and so on and so forth, and really emphasize those elements of the character as opposed to making her, a fucking killjoy, which, to me, at the very least, I think that's the one victory of this film. I was genuinely worried, if nothing else, that Carol Danvers was going to come across like just a fucking killjoy. If anything, this is just a role that Brie Larson has to grow into, in a sense. Now, what I find disconcerting is the lack of what we would call plussing on the Disney side of things. And I am hoping, and for those of you who don't know what plussing is, I'm going to recommend a video. I'm going to place it in the description from the podcast Double Toasted. The head guys at Double Toasted used to run a website called The Spill, and one of the guys who wrote for The Spill is one of the writers on Doctor Strange, so he's working in the MCU stuff, and he goes over what is called plussing in the Disney way that they do things and do films. So I think that, watch that video and look at the philosophy that he outlines for Kevin Feige and the production crew. And I think that if they follow that philosophy with the next Captain Marvel film, it will be a film that a lot of people enjoy. I think that the people who were dissatisfied with the first one would probably be satisfied with the second one. And, if they don't, if Kevin Feige steps back too far, in my opinion, the franchise will get worse. So I'm interested to see where it's going to go. But I think that's enough for me post-mortem. Again, I didn't like Captain Marvel. I still consider it as low as I consider Batman v Superman. And I don't like it for the same reasons as Batman v Superman, in the sense that it could have been a great movie, but it wasn't, because there were key mistakes that were made and there was no course correction. So, hope you enjoyed this little post-mortem video of mine. Obviously, I'd love to hear everyone's thoughts about the film, and if you saw it in below, or, what would you like to see in a sequel that would have you come back into the theater? That's the real question. I'd like to know that. So, with all that said, my name is Micah Curtis. I'll see you next time. Davis Vold.